Registered representatives offer securities through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Financial advisors offer advisory services through Securities America Advisors, Inc. Forest Hills Financial, Inc. and Securities America are separate entities. This is the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steindler.
Good morning. Welcome to Keep Your Money Show. I'm Jamie Westenbarger, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Bart Steindler. Bart, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's another $1 million morning.
Indeed it is. This is Keeping Your Money Show, where we cut through all the bulls, the booyahs, the bells, whistles, honks, and horns to get you to the information that actually helps you move towards retirement. Got a great show on deck today. We're going to talk about the 10 retirement killers identified by Barron's. These things that you're doing to screw up your retirement without even trying. The tough but true reasons you're not rich. And the father of portfolio theory, which we've talked about many times on the show, he has kind of a different take on things. I thought that would be kind of interesting to discuss.
That was interesting.
And then 4 ways to avoid charity scams this holiday season. In the season of giving, unfortunately, there are still crooks out there trying to take. And we'll talk about ways to avoid that.
That's just disgusting, you know?
It really is. If you miss any part of the show, you can always find it on our website. Just go to keepingyourmoney.com. You can also find it on our podcast partners at iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Just search for the Keeping Your Money Show. As always, you're welcome to give us a call. 888-98-MONEY is the number. That's 888-986-6639. We don't take calls on the air, but someone does answer that phone 24 hours a day. And I do have to say, if you have called in the last week or two, we were unaware that the company we were paying to answer the phone in off hours had gone out of business. So if you were calling and being told that the number was not working the last couple weeks, we apologize profusely, as we were unaware of that and have remedied that solution or that problem.
And we've used that company for a long time, too, haven't we?
Years. Yeah. And it's really just been a seamless process, and we never had any reason to ever check on it or anything. It just always worked, you know. And a friend of mine pointed out that he had called in to leave a funny message about something we had talked on the show and said, "Hey, by the way, your phone's not working." So again, I apologize, but someone will answer the phone, I promise. 888-98-MONEY if you want to give us a call. So
I wanted to say something about info at keepingyourmoney.com. That's, where people can go and email questions to us and things like that. We're not really looking for, songs or, funny things about towns in Texas and things like that.
Right. So if you're Mike, if your name's Mike and you have a Prodigy email, you can always send those to somewhere else.
Yeah, we don't really need them, okay?
But thanks, Mike. We appreciate
we do appreciate you listening.
We do,
but
absolutely.
The funny songs about Waxahachie, Texas, we can live without them.
And we could argue whether it was funny or not as well. So, so let's talk about the 10 things that'll kill your retirement. You know what's interesting? I think if we asked everyone out there, off the top of your head, what do you think is one of the things that kills your retirement or your ability to retire? And I would bet you that a lot of people would guess that it's making bad investment decisions or the market crashing or, something like that. But what's interesting is that's actually number 6 out of 10. It's not even near the top of that. So maybe the thing that you sometimes put the most amount of thought into, or the most amount of thought that could be ruinous to your overall picture, really isn't as big of an issue as you may think it is. What's interesting, though, is a survey of Americans that have retired or are about to retire found the number one thing they have is savings regret, not saving enough money and realizing now that they really could have. If they had just made a couple of adjustments, they probably could have put away more than what they did. And now they're in a situation where maybe they're struggling a little bit and they really regret that they didn't take this seriously a number of years ago.
Yeah. So, you could take a look at your own situation and evaluate that. Some people that come in here and talk to us have done an excellent job of savings. And some people who come in and talk to us have done a terrible job of savings. And then, the vast majority fit somewhere in between. But if you're finding that you're spending just about everything that you're taking in, then that's probably a warning sign that you're not saving enough. You should put the savings portion of your budget, and by the way, you should have a budget. That's probably the number one thing you should do. You have to sit down and figure out a budget of what you can afford to spend.
And really, no other time in history has it been easier with the amount of technology and tools and apps and tracking that's available. Has it never been easier to really be much more budget conscious?
I've seen advertisements where some banks or credit card companies or something actually have a app, and you can set your budget up on the app for your spending in certain categories, and when you hit that, they'll send you an alert.
Absolutely.
So you'll know, I just went over on my grocery budget, I just went over on my entertainment budget. And if you just think about some of these things, there's a lot of ways. Are you going to the grocery store and buying pre-prepared, meals? Well, that's more expensive than buying the ingredients and cooking it yourself,
Yep. And I think that kind of ties into the number one danger that Barron's identified in this article, and that is having low financial literacy. And you might think, well, that's not me. But it could be you. It's not saying that you're not smart or that you don't understand things, but that you don't understand the complexities of what's really necessary to retire. So often when we sit down with someone, and this is across all categories, this is across all income stratospheres, all jobs, all intelligence levels, sometimes really truly understanding what is necessary to successfully retire on a financial level, you just don't have it. And so you're plugging along doing the things you think you should be doing, only to be smacked in the face when it's too late to do anything about it.
Right. So what are some examples of those things you might be saying? Well, one of them is, what kind of nest egg am I going to need to be able to afford my lifestyle when I decide to retire? And how much money, how much do I have to save now on an annual basis to be able to reach that nest egg?
Or do I really understand some of the financial instruments that are out there? Mm-hmm. We see people do things like default to a CD because it's easy and they're familiar with it. But yet, for the last 10 years, you haven't even kept up with inflation if you had your money there. So that's a huge mistake if that's where you were storing your money. Or we see people who get sucked in by a billboard or, a Facebook ad to go to a dinner seminar at Ruth's Chris and listen to a salesman try and sell them a product that's completely wrong for them, and they're locked into it for 10 or 12 or 15 years, and then they come to us and there's nothing we can do to help them. So financial literacy doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with you. It's just, this is a very complex world now, especially on a financial level. And a lot of things can sound really good on the surface, but when you kind of dig down into them, you realize, boy, maybe that's not for me. Or, man, I'm going to really miss out because of a fear I have, or, a concern or something somebody told me 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm making bad decisions about my finances that will have long-term ramifications on my ability to retire successfully.
And it's more difficult now, actually, I think, than it was 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
Because
you don't have a pension.
Pensions were prevalent. Social Security, and I'm not saying Social Security is going away, but Social Security was a lot easier to figure out in the past than it was in the future.
Sure. There was no uncertainty to it, that's for sure.
There was no uncertainty. You didn't have to, I believe the taxation of Social Security has changed.
Absolutely.
Social Security being used to pay some of your Medicare premiums, these type of things. And it gets into that, too, because it says, one of the things is underestimating Social Security. Mm-hmm. That is one of the reasons that people are making mistakes.
Well, and another thing that's changed that we don't talk enough about, everyone talks about the concept of inflation, but we don't talk about overall costs, okay?
Right.
So the inflation from 1960 to today maybe wasn't overwhelming, But you know what you didn't have in 1960? You didn't have cell phones. You didn't pay for television. You didn't have to worry about an internet provider. You didn't have to worry about, all of the insurance costs are astronomical compared to what they were. I remember my grandpa telling me a story about when my grandma got pregnant with my dad, and they went to the hospital and the doctor, and they worked out a payment plan so that by the time my dad was born, the whole birth was paid for. Mm-hmm. There's not a world we live in today where you could go into a hospital and pay off in a 9-month payment plan, the birth of a child. You're looking at $30,000. I guess you could, but you better have a really good job. So just the overall cost structure of things have changed so much. The average person between cell phone, internet, and cable probably pays $400 to $500 a month. That's an expense that didn't even exist 20 years ago. So, those types of things play into it as well. That does make retirement today much more difficult than it was 30 years ago. So if it's that much more difficult, it only, goes to the argument that you can't do what your dad or your grandpa did today. It won't work. It's not the same world. We have a much different world out there. The flip side of that, though, Bart, is just like when we're talking about budgeting, there's so many more tools. There's so many more financial vehicles and instruments and concepts that can help you be successful, but you're not going to learn them in Reading Money Magazine on a Saturday. It's not going to be enough to get you over that hump.
Right. They're most of the magazines that you're reading, they're giving you rather simplistic things that may or may not work, but they don't really take into account what your individual situation is. For that, you really need to speak with an advisor.
Yep. Some of the other things they talk about: being hit by major medical bills, not making long-term plans, procrastinating. How many times do we hear people come in and say, I should have done this 10 years ago? Some of these things we can't control. You can't control if you get injured or sick. Mm-hmm. You can't control if you get laid off or unemployed. And many times you can't control whether they get divorced. And those things are going to have an impact on your retirement. Some of these other things, though, you can. And I really want to encourage you, if you haven't sat down and figured out what that roadmap to your retirement looks like, if you don't know, how do I turn this nest egg into the income that I need? Don't go to a steak dinner to find out the answer. Go buy your own steak dinner and sit down with an independent financial advisor and come up with a game plan that works for you, that doesn't revolve around some product they want to sell you. And if you don't have an advisor and you'd like to meet with one, we'd be happy to sit down with you. Just give us a call. 888-98-MONEY is the number. That's 888-986-6639. All right, coming up, the tough reasons you're not rich, right here on the Keeping Your Money Show.
There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to planning your future. Jamie, Bart, and all of the advisors at the Keeping Your Money Show understand that your financial goals are unique and your needs are going to change at varying stages of your life. Our team of advisors can help you tailor a financial plan that meets your unique needs. Call us today at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to schedule your free initial consultation.